So this is Rick Ross. And apparently he was on his way to Colombia. Now, if you don't know, Rick Ross owns a plane.
It's all good. Heading back to New York. Let's go Knicks.
I'm at the #1 dentist in the game, and what I want to do is I want to give back.
There's a photo going around right now that Rick Ross would pay almost anything to erase from the internet. It's not from a music video. It's not from a magazine shoot. It's a grainy cell phone picture taken inside an airport in Bogota, Colombia, and it shows the man who has spent 2 decades telling the world he flies nothing but private, standing in line to board a Frontier Airlines flight. Frontier, the budget carrier, the one with the animal mascots on the tail. And the man holding what looked like a boarding pass for seat 23B was the same man who built an entire career around the words "biggest boss." Within hours, the image had been shared millions of times. Within days, it had become a kind of cultural shorthand for something people had been whispering about for almost 2 years. Something nobody wanted to say out loud, because saying it out loud felt almost cruel. The boss might be broke. And while the internet was busy turning that one airport photo into 10,000 memes, something else was quietly happening in the background. A tax filing surfaced in the state of Georgia, showing Rick Ross owed almost $65,000. A Belgian watch dealer with 2 million subscribers was breaking down, frame by frame, why he believed the rapper's $3.5 million Emerald Audemars Piguet was a counterfeit. Ticket prices for Ross's upcoming anniversary tour were collapsing on resale sites, dropping into the low 40s. And sitting at home in Connecticut, watching every single one of these stories land like clockwork, was a man who has waited nearly 20 years for exactly this moment. Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, the one human being on the planet who has dedicated more energy.
Yo, what's happening? It's the biggest boss in the game, Ricky Rose, right here live with Rob Report.
Sorry, that's funny. Ricky Rose, brother.
To dismantling Rick Ross than anyone alive. And right now, in 2026, he's not even pretending to hide how much he's enjoying it. What you're about to hear is not a hit piece. It's not internet speculation dressed up as journalism. It's a timeline of receipts, public filings, and viral moments that, when you put them all next to each other, paint a picture the boss really doesn't want you to see. So get comfortable, because we're going to walk through every single piece of this puzzle, and by the end, you're going to understand exactly why even the people who love Rick Ross are starting to ask the question nobody used to be allowed to ask. What if it was all a flex? And what if the flex finally ran out of gas? To understand why a single photo on a Frontier flight could shake an entire career, you have to go all the way back to one summer in 2008. Because that's when the first crack appeared. And once a crack opens in hip-hop, it almost never closes. Back then, Ross was on top of the world. The boss was everywhere. Mansions, yachts, kilo talk, that signature voice booming about a life that sounded like a Scarface remake. And then, almost out of nowhere, photographs started circulating online. Photographs of a younger William Leonard Roberts II in a corrections officer uniform, standing in a Florida state prison, holding a badge. The man who built his entire persona on being the trafficker, the kingpin, the guy who moved weight and ran the streets, had spent over a year working as a CO, watching inmates, filing reports, punching a clock for the state. In any other industry, this would be a footnote. In hip-hop, it was an earthquake. Because authenticity in this culture isn't a marketing slogan. It's the entire product. And the man who spread those photos and turned them into a permanent stain wasn't a journalist or a podcaster. It was 50 Cent. He didn't just leak the photos. He turned them into content. He made cartoons. He bought a TV. He gave Ross's Baby Mama a reality show pitch. He cackled about it on radio for years. And here's the thing people forget. Ross survived it. He survived it because the music was hitting too hard to ignore. Deeper than rap. Teflon Don. God Forgives, I Don't. Album after album, Ross drowned out the noise with platinum
And for the little fat guy in the one cubicle office speaking on watches, speaking on Rick Ross and his Audemars. Stay out of grown folks' business, little piglet. Get out of that one cubicle office and go and see the world.
Audemars. And Maybach music releases. The wound never closed, but the money was thick enough to cover the scar. That was the deal Rick Ross had with the world for over a decade. You question the persona, he He answered with a #1 record. You called him fake. He answered with a stadium tour. You laughed at the corrections officer photos. He answered with another mansion. And as long as the receipts on the back end kept piling up, the questions on the front end stayed background noise. But somewhere around 2022, that arrangement started to slip. The album cycles got longer. The mainstream singles got quieter. And the streaming economy, which pays out pennies for what used to pay dollars, started doing something to legacy rappers that nobody talked about publicly. It started exposing who was actually liquid and who was just leveraged. And then came Colombia. The Frontier Airlines moment didn't happen in a vacuum. According to the story that broke in late 2026, Ross had landed in Bogota for what was supposed to be a routine performance trip. The private jet, the same one he's filmed himself sitting on more times than anyone can count, was reportedly grounded. And when it came time to leave the country, the man with the $40 million plane in his Instagram captions walked into a commercial terminal and bought a ticket on a budget airline. Now look, plenty of rich people fly commercial. Bezos has done it. Buffett famously did it for years. The issue was never the act. The issue was who. Because nobody in hip-hop has talked about private aviation more than Rick Ross. The line, "I'm on a private jet eating bacon," isn't a joke. It's a brand identity. So when the photos hit, the internet didn't ask whether his jet was in the shop. The internet asked whether the jet ever really existed the way he said it did. Ross's response made it worse. So much worse. Within days, he hopped on Instagram with a clapback video where he tried to explain that the private jet was, and I quote, getting upgraded with Starlink Wi-Fi. Starlink Wi-Fi. The man who once rapped about owning his own runway tried to tell the world that his entire aviation operation was paused so Elon Musk's internet could get installed in the cabin. The comments section turned into a graveyard. Even his own fans were posting laughing emojis. Because here's the thing about a bad excuse. A bad excuse doesn't just fail to clear up the question. It makes the question louder. By trying to explain the Frontier flight, Ross essentially confirmed that the optics needed explaining. And once the boss has to explain why he's flying like the rest of us.
I'm your host, the biggest boss, Ricky Rose. Come with me.
The magic of the entire persona starts to evaporate. And while the internet was still laughing at the Starlink excuse, watch collectors were quietly building a much more dangerous case. Because there's one community on the internet you absolutely do not want fact-checking your jewelry. And in early 2024, that community came for Rick Ross with the precision of a Swiss movement. His name is Nico Leonard. He's a Belgian luxury watch dealer with millions of subscribers and a YouTube channel that has, over the years, ended the credibility of more than a few celebrity flexes. And when Ross started parading around a green, emerald-encrusted Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, claiming it cost him $3.25 million, Nico did what Nico does. He pulled it apart on camera, frame by frame, pixel by pixel. The bezel proportions were wrong. The emerald cuts were inconsistent in ways that no genuine AP house would ever approve. The case finishing didn't match Audemars Piguet's signature polishing technique. And the dial, under high resolution, showed details that Watch Insiders said would never leave the Le Brassus factory. Nico's verdict was blunt. He believed Rick Ross was wearing a fake. The video racked up millions of views. Other watch experts piled on. And then Ross did something that, in hindsight, may have been the biggest mistake of the entire situation. He responded. He hopped on Instagram and started calling Nico Leonard Piglet. Just Piglet. Over and over again. No serial number. No paperwork. No invoice. No appearance at the Audemars Piguet boutique to prove the authentication. Just a nickname and a lot of yelling. In the watch world, that's the equivalent of being asked to show your driver's license and answering with a freestyle. It doesn't satisfy anyone. It doesn't prove anything. And it tells every collector watching that the answer to the question probably isn't one you want on the record. What made it worse was the context. Hip-hop jewelers have been whispering for years about pieces in Ross's collection that looked off. Chains that didn't weigh what they should. Diamonds that didn't refract light the way real stones do. The Nico incident didn't create the suspicion. It just gave the suspicion a face, a name, and a viral clip that wouldn't die. And once the watch community decided publicly that they didn't believe Rick Ross's most famous flex, Every other piece of jewelry he had ever worn went under the same microscope. The frame had shifted. Now, instead of being a guy with a lot of expensive things, Ross became a guy whose expensive things had to keep proving themselves. That's an exhausting position to be in. And it's not one any artist has ever really come back from. If the watch was the smoking gun, what came next was the bank statement. Because in early 2025, paperwork surfaced from the state of Georgia that
I got a 1.
Look at that. That mean dick. That mean you automatically pay and you pay twice.
nobody in Ross's camp wanted the public to see. According to filings reported by multiple outlets, the state had issued a tax execution against William Leonard Roberts II for unpaid 2021 taxes. The original debt was just over $29,000. By the time the state got around to filing, penalties, interest, and collection fees had pushed the total to $64,995.21. Let that number sit for a second. 65 grand. For a man who told the world he's worth $180 million. For a man whose Instagram is wall-to-wall yacht footage and stack videos. Now, in fairness, $65,000 is not a number that should crack a real 8-figure net worth. Successful people get tax bills all the time. Wealthy people forget about line items. But the issue isn't the dollar amount. The issue is the existence of a tax execution at all. A tax execution isn't a polite letter from the state. It's a legal mechanism Georgia uses when normal collection has failed. It means someone, somewhere in his financial team, either ignored the bill, couldn't pay it, or watched the clock run out without raising a flag. And it happened in the same state where Ross owns what may be the most famous flex property in hip-hop. A 109-room estate in Fayetteville, Georgia. A property he reportedly purchased for $4.2 million in cash. The math just doesn't math. You can drop $4 million in cash on a mansion, but you can't clear a $65,000 tax bill? Either the cash flow isn't what it used to be, or the team around him is in worse shape than anyone realized. Neither answer is good, and the property itself is a story. 109 rooms, indoor pool, bowling alley, the kind of estate that costs a small fortune just to keep the lights on. Property tax alone runs into 6 figures annually. Staffing it, even at minimum, runs into hundreds of thousands. Insurance, maintenance, security, landscaping. The promised land, as Ross has called it, isn't an asset. It's a monthly liability with a beautiful gate. And when you start adding up the recurring costs of a lifestyle built around that estate, the cars in the driveway, the chains in the safe, the cigars on the lawn, the catering trucks for the annual...
I'm your host, the biggest boss, Ricky Rose. Come with me.
Car show, suddenly $65,000 to the state of Georgia starts looking less like an oversight and more like a signal. But personal taxes were just the tip. The real money problem was happening on the road. And to understand how bad it got, you have to look at the tour that was supposed to be his victory lap. In late 2025, Ross announced the Port of Miami 20th Anniversary Tour. It was supposed to be a celebration. 20 years since the album that made him a household name. A nostalgic run through arenas, capped off with surprise guests and full album performances. On paper, it was a slam dunk. In reality, it was a slow-motion train wreck. Within weeks of tickets going on sale, fans started posting screenshots of nearly empty seating charts. Then came the buy one get one promotions. Then, the dynamic pricing collapses, where seats that were supposed to go for hundreds were getting cleared out for as low as $41 on resale platforms. By the time the tour was a month away, it had become a kind of inside joke on hip-hop Twitter. People were posting venue maps with rows of available seats and asking, where did the Boz fans go? The math of an underperforming tour is brutal. People don't realize how brutal. When a legacy artist hits the road at Ross's level, the upfront costs are enormous. Production, crew, lighting, bus rentals, equipment trucks, insurance, per diems for an entire traveling party that can run 30 or 40 deep, venue guarantees that have to be paid whether the seats fill or not, promoter cuts, local marketing. A single underperforming arena date doesn't just leave money on the table. It actively bleeds money. Multiply that across a 15 or 20 city run, And what was supposed to be a multi-million-dollar payday turns into a multi-million-dollar hole. Tours are the safety net for legacy artists in the streaming era. When the safety net starts losing money, the entire financial ecosystem of being a working rapper starts to wobble. And then came Tony Yayo. Because of course it did. Yayo, 50 Cent's right hand for 2 decades, posted publicly about Ross's struggling ticket sales. Just dropped it into the timeline. No commentary needed. The G-Unit signal had gone out. And that's the thing about being in a beef with 50 Cent. You're never just in a beef with him. You're in a beef with an entire organization that has been waiting, patiently, for any opening to swing. Yayo posts. The blogs pick it up. The blogs go viral. The clips hit TikTok. And by the time it all gets back to Ross, it's no longer a ticket sales issue. It's another national headline that hammers the broke narrative deeper into the public consciousness. Which brings us, finally, to the man at the center of all of this. Because none of these stories, the flight, the watch, the taxes, the tour, would be hitting the way they're hitting if it wasn't for one specific human being amplifying every single one of them with surgical precision. 50 Cent has built something most people don't fully appreciate. He's built a one-man media empire.
What's happening? It's the biggest boss in the game, Rick Ross, live from Wingstop in Brooklyn, and you checking out Forbes.com.
Whose entire editorial strategy is making Rick Ross's life as uncomfortable as legally possible. And what makes it work is that 50 isn't punching from below. He's punching from a position that, even after his own financial setbacks, is still verifiable in ways Ross's never has been. Let's be honest about 50 too, because the story isn't one-sided. Forbes reported recently that 50 Cent's net worth had taken a significant hit, with some estimates suggesting his peak valuation has dropped by hundreds of millions of dollars. Not every Curtis Jackson venture has been a home run. Not every TV show has hit. The bankruptcy filing years ago is part of the public record. But here's the difference, and it's a critical one. Even at his low points, the receipts behind 50 Cent's empire have always been there. The vitamin water deal that paid out an estimated $60 to $100 million when Coca-Cola acquired Glasso. The Power television universe, which spawned multiple spin-offs and made him one of the most successful black showrunners in cable history. The G-Unit Film and Television Incorporated operations. The boxing promotions. The headphone deals. The liquor brand. Whether the current number is 40 million, 100 million, or somewhere in between, the operations that built it can be checked, audited, and verified. Ross's empire is harder to verify. Yes, the Wingstop story is real. He's spoken often about owning around 25 to 30 franchise locations, and his investment in the chain is genuinely impressive. Wingstop as a corporation has performed extraordinarily well as a publicly traded company. But here's the part nobody wants to break down on camera. Franchise ownership isn't a money fountain. After food costs, labor costs, royalties to the parent company, rent, insurance, equipment, and management overhead, individual franchise margins are tight. The often quoted figure of Rick Ross's Wingstop empire is worth over $1 billion, treats gross revenue as if it were personal income, and that's not how franchising works. Net annual cash flow from 25 strong franchise locations is real money, but it's not fund a mansion compound, a fleet of cars, an entourage, and a touring operation money. Not by itself. Not anymore. And this is where 50 Cent's beef strategy becomes genuinely brilliant. He doesn't attack the music. He doesn't attack the talent. He attacks the math. Every single shot he takes is calibrated to make people do the calculation. Where is the money actually coming from? Why does the lifestyle need this much projection? Why are the receipts always somewhere off camera? He's been running the same play for almost 20 years, and right now, in 2026, more people than ever are starting to do that math out loud. There's another layer to this in 2026 that the casual hip-hop fan might not be tracking. The 50 Cent and T.I. beef. Because while Ross has been busy putting out fires, T.I. dropped a 50 Cent diss track called Right One, and Ross publicly co-signed it. Made a whole post about how he respected the energy. Now, that might sound like just another piece of internet noise, but here's why it matters. Co-signing a 50 Cent diss is the equivalent of throwing a rock through a window, and then standing in the front yard waiting for the owner to come out. It guarantees retaliation. And in this particular moment, with Ross already dealing with the Frontier flight, the watch situation, the tax filing, and the...
So this is Rick Ross. And apparently he was on his way to Colombia. Now, if you don't know, Rick Ross owns a plane.
Poor collapse. The last thing he needed was to give 50 Cent fresh ammunition to load into the chamber. But he did it anyway. And 50, predictably, used it. The cycle keeps feeding itself. Every time Ross pokes the bear comes back with bigger receipts, and the broke narrative gets one more day in the headlines. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Rick Ross might be in deeper trouble than even 50 Cent realizes. Because the broke narrative is no longer about whether the bank account is empty. The broke narrative has become a frame. And once a frame locks into place in the public imagination, the actual numbers stop mattering. Every flex becomes suspicious. Every chain becomes a question. Every car in the driveway becomes a prop until proven otherwise. The genius of the persona Rick Ross built, the kingpin aesthetic, the unkillable boss mythology, was that it required absolute audience belief. The moment the audience starts checking the math, the persona doesn't just weaken. It collapses inward. And persona collapse, in hip-hop, is one of the few wounds that doesn't heal with another hit single. Because the next single will just get held up next to the receipts, and the receipts now travel faster than the music. And the cultural context makes it worse. The era Ross built his career in, roughly 2006 to 2015, was the last era where an artist could control the narrative around their own wealth. Magazine covers were curated. Music video budgets were inflated to make rappers look richer than they were. Jewelry was loaned for shoots and returned the next day. The audience never saw behind the curtain because the curtain was thick and the cameras only pointed where you let them point. Today, the curtain is gone. Every passenger on every Frontier flight has a phone. Every watch dealer with a YouTube channel is a forensic investigator. Every empty seat at every concert ends up on TikTok within hours. The flex era didn't die because hip-hop stopped loving flexing. The flex era died because the technology to fact-check the flex caught up with the artist doing it. And Rick Ross, more than almost any other rapper of his generation, built his entire brand on flexes that needed the old technology to survive. So what are his options?
Yo, what's happening? It's the biggest boss in the game, Ricky Rose, right here live with Rob Report.
Sorry, that's funny. Ricky Rose, brother.
Honestly, none of them are good. He can keep doing what he's been doing. Keep posting the cars. Keep filming in the mansion. Keep dropping music. Hope the volume of new content drowns out the broke narrative. But the broke narrative has too much oxygen now. It's not going anywhere. He can try to fight back with hard evidence. Walk into Audemars Piguet's flagship boutique with the watch and get it authenticated on camera. Publish actual tour revenue numbers. Show the bank balances. But if any of those receipts come back, even slightly underwhelming, the damage doubles. Transparency only works if the numbers are big enough to silence the room. And right now, nobody knows for sure if his numbers are. The third option is to pivot entirely. Lean into the elder statesman role. Drop the kingpin theatrics. Reinvent himself as the hip-hop businessman, the Wingstop guy, the cigar lounge owner, the philanthropist. But artistic reinvention at 50 years old, with a body of work this thoroughly defined by a single character, is one of the hardest moves in entertainment. Jay-Z managed it. Diddy was trying to manage it before his own implosion. Almost nobody else has pulled it off cleanly. And then there's the wild card. The thing Ross can't control no matter which path he picks. 50 Cent. Because 50 isn't going to stop. Not because he hates Ross, although he clearly does, but because dunking on Rick Ross has become part of his personal brand. It's content. It's algorithm fuel. It's a guaranteed engagement spike every time he posts. 50 has monetized this beef in ways that go beyond emotional satisfaction. Every viral Ross moment is a free traffic spike for whatever 50 is selling that week. The G-Unit boxing promotion, the new TV series, the liquor line, the film projects. Ross is, in a real sense, an unpaid marketing asset for 50 Cent's entire business empire. Why would he ever let that go? Which leaves us with the bigger question, the one that matters beyond just two rappers in a fight. What does this whole situation mean for hip-hop itself? Because Rick Ross is not the only artist of his generation flexing a lifestyle that may not hold up under modern scrutiny. He's just the most visible one currently getting publicly checked. The rich rapper archetype, the whole mythology of unlimited wealth, drug money origin stories, jets and yachts and watches and chains, was built in an era of looser fact-checking and tighter narrative control.
And for the little fat guy in the one cubicle office speaking on watches, speaking on Rick Ross and his Audemars, stay out of grown folks' business, little piglet. Get out of that one cubicle office and go and see the world. Audemars.
Control. That era is over. And what's coming next, what we're seeing the first wave of right now, is an entire generation of veteran rappers being audited in real time by an audience that has access to more financial intelligence than any reporter in history ever did. Ross is the canary in this particular coal mine. The way his situation resolves, or doesn't, is going to set the template for how every flex rapper from his era survives the next 5 years. So is Rick Ross actually broke? Probably not in the strict, literal sense. The Wingstop money is real. The catalog royalties are real. The brand still has value. He's almost certainly worth more than the average person watching this video can imagine. But broke isn't really the question. The question is whether the gap between the image he's selling and the reality he's living has grown too wide to close. And the answer to that question, based on everything we've just walked through, is starting to look like yes. The Frontier flight isn't just a flight. It's a symbol. The fake watch allegations aren't just about one watch. They're about whether anything he wears can be trusted. The tax lien isn't just a number. It's a paper trail that says the financial machinery isn't running as smoothly as it should. The empty tour seats aren't just empty seats. They're a referendum on whether the audience still buys the legend. And 50 Cent isn't just trolling. He's documenting. Every post, every clip, every Instagram caption is another entry in a public ledger that's been building since 2008. The Boz persona was the product. And right now, in 2026, the product is having the worst quality control crisis of its entire run. The real test isn't whether Rick Ross can survive this moment financially. It's whether the version of Rick Ross that hip-hop has loved for 2 decades can survive it culturally. Because if the persona cracks, the music cracks with it. That's the deal he made when he chose this character. And the man across the country watching all of this unfold, the one who shot 9 times, built an empire, lost half of it, and built another one anyway, has been waiting since 2008 to see whether his old rival could pay the price of the bet he made. We're about to find out the answer. And whichever way this goes, the next year is going to be one of the most fascinating stretches in hip-hop we've watched in a long, long time. So what do you actually think? Is the broke narrative real? Or has the internet finally weaponized speculation into something that's swallowing a genuine career? Is 50 Cent a genius cultural operator, or just a man who never learned to let a grudge die? And is there a version of Rick Ross, a real one, behind the persona, that we've never actually been allowed to meet? Drop your honest take in the comments, because this story is far from over and the next chapter is already loading. Hit subscribe if you want to be here when it drops, because the moment 50 Cent makes his next move, and trust me, he's already drafting it, you're going to want to be watching it unfold in real time. The Boz isn't done, but the version of him we used to know, that version might already be in the past tense.